this guy. Good. So I remember a few weeks ago, I was on the red line heading home, had my headphones in, phone has been getting close to dying from all day's use, just listening to my new Tidal music app, or some of you might use Pandora or Spotify, and I just had it on shuffle in a random PlayStation that just gives you random songs to kind of expand your horizons. And I remember as I was listening, my phone just briefly died and the music just stopped. And I panicked for instance. I was like, oh no more distraction. I'm gonna have to now look at these people and have to deal with myself in quietness and stuff. And then it kind of occurred to me as I just sat there, now actually having to notice my surroundings, is that, and you may have thought this as well, isn't it pretty incredible that I could go my whole entire life and I might never interact with any of these people. There's nothing none of my habits or nothing that I do currently would ever lead me to actually put me in the path of these people. And I thought back to all the times, like as I driven on the highway, like all those other cars that just fly past you in the midst of night, like those are other people that have like rich, vivid lives that you will never know about, inside jokes that you'll never hear about, relationships, problems, circumstances, just like a whole another set of stories that just like I would never come in contact with. And when I reflected on this, I kind of got really sad and depressed about this fact, because there's just so much of life that you never get to experience. Who's ever felt this weird existential feeling that you'll never get to experience a fraction of what you want to experience? Now, who of you have one of these music apps, a Spotify account or Pandora or something like that? It made me think about the music app I was listening to while I was on shuffle. So, Pat, you have a
Pandora.
Pandora.
Uh-huh.
Do you put it on shuffle a lot? And, has it helped you expand your music horizons a bit?
I would say, yeah.
I think we all agree that these apps, one of the best parts about it is that it's made our musical tastes a lot more broad and our enjoyment of music a lot better, right? Mm-hmm. I thought to myself, why can't we put the shuffle button on other aspects of our life? We kind of just like let an algorithm or just some other force dictate what our next decision is going to be, as opposed to our own conscious decision. Because if you think about it, we're sort of prisoners of our own preference. We live in a society where preference is king. What do you like to eat? Who do you want to vote for? Who do you want to date? Where do you want to live? These are all things that we get asked on a daily basis, and the market is suited for our preferences, and our whole world is built around these preferences. Mark, where do you work?
Mostly at home, but I work for a telecom company.
Do you find that your day-to-day life can end up just your daily habit routine leads you to just a very small, minuscule...
Very easily it can.
Yeah. There's really anything that leads to out of the ordinary, right? And,
for the most part.
Yeah, and those are just circumstances of your work. And what led you to choose where you live?
Location, sunshine,
Preferences.
Yep.
So what if we put the shuffle button on the bigger decisions in life? And this may seem kind of bold, but like, who would be open to something as drastic as when you first stepped onto college, instead of saying I'm going to major in this, you kind of spin a wheel or leave it to an algorithm or an app that just kind of votes, and that's the direction you go. Or what if you wanted to go on vacation, but you had no idea where to go, and you just kind of threw a dart at a map? Like, imagine how different your experiences would be if you let the power of your decision away from this. And I think because we could make the decision to say, like, okay, well, to be more an open-minded person, I need to travel the world. That may be true, but if you wanted to travel the world, you would see that based on your preferences and what your idea of like seeing the world is. You have your own filter. So the only way that you can escape your prison of preferences is to literally give all choice to the wind, either to someone else. Like who's ever gone to a new restaurant that they've never eaten at and had the waiter order for them? And it ended up being great. And who's had it where it's gone wrong? And who's had a situation where you're like, I'll just have the waiter order, and then you don't agree with their choice because you let your preferences get in the way. You just never know. I think should be a little bit more bold in the decisions that we make, whether they be small or big, because it could lead to circumstances that could, that I'm not going to say all circumstances can be positive, but it's truly the only way to escape is to go bubble hopping, is to let the permission go to somebody else to make the decisions for you, whether that be technology now or someone else making the decision for you. And if this idea sounds kind of scary, I'd say take baby steps. Maybe the first thing you do is when you go to a new restaurant, have the waiter open for you. When was the last time you went to a movie theater and without any plan of what to see, and you said, I'm going to buy the ticket of the person in front of me and see that movie? I don't even know what they're going to go. That, who knows? You might be introduced to a movie that you never would have seen otherwise. But if you look back to your Pandora Music or your Spotify, that's what makes that's what enriched our music lives. Why can't we apply this? If it enriched our music lives so much, why can't it enrich other aspects of our life? Maybe did it ever occur to you that you could go to Macedonia and give Miss Sweden a big hug on a cliff? Or did it ever occur to you that you could go skinny dipping with a bunch of drunk Icelandic people at a house party? Or take a smart car up through the mountains of Corfu that's only a 2-seater that's destroying your tires because the car is not fit, but you have the amazing view of the ocean? Did any of those decisions ever occur to you? No, and they never occurred to me, but it happened to me because I let someone else decide that for me. When I toured Europe, I gave wind to my schedule very early on, and I decided to couch surf instead of go to any hotels, and I just let my host decide for me. And I only planned maybe 2 events while I was there, and it led to so many different circumstances. I met Miss Sweden in Macedonia. I actually did, and she gave me a tour of Stockholm that I was going to go to in 2 weeks. I got invited to an Icelandic college party and got drunk and went skinny dipping with a bunch of other drunk Icelandic people. These are all things I never would have chosen to do myself. But in the moment, it definitely felt like the right thing to do. And I think any good decision that you can do is always based on what feels right at the time. So I'll leave you with this. Our preferences create the prison and the little bubble and world that we live in. And there's nothing wrong with that. But just understand that it's a bubble. And whether the bubble is positive or negative, it will only be the same. Don't you notice that your friends, we've all heard that saying, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? Well, I think that's partially true. I think it's more or less, your friends aren't an extension of yourself. Your friends are yourself. They're a reflection of you. Your friends like the same things you do. You tend to go to the same places. You hang out at the same places. You go to the same places. You have the same kind of experiences. They're always going to be yes men. That's why they're our friends. So another thing you can do is just have a little bit of no men in your life. People who don't have a qualm about disappointing you in your life. You never, and even though that may seem counterintuitive, it will lead to a lot of more interesting and new opportunities that will open your mind to things outside of your world.